Living in the borderland. Are you going to fight like a boy, going to run like a man? Living in the borderland. You got to take what you get, got to get what you can. But you can't hold on. Can't hold on to love. You can't hold on. You can't hold on and live by the law of the jungle. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we have been voted the most entertaining and most successful local podcast in less votes than it takes to impeach the worst secretary
of American history.
What
do we call it? What
we call it? Oh,
yeah,
terrible.
I think we won 2-1 that I saw. That was
my word. Let me go and break the law to the utmost of my ability, not fulfill my constitutional duties, lie to Congress, and, that Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the same thing about Janet Yellen, about Anthony Blinken. I don't know anybody from this administration. I wouldn't believe them if they swore they were telling a lie. So, I mean, you just, what do? You just throw your arms up in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. I don't, I'm glad that it's something after 3 years, even if it's symbolic. He's bringing attention to this. I'd like to see the House come up with their own border bill. Yeah, kind of like that.
Secretary of Homeland Security, and
it's a contradiction in terms.
Not secure. Let me tell you what.
Well, and again, it's the whole Homeland Security Department.
Yeah.
To me was problematic when it was put in, and because I think you added another layer of bureaucracy between FEMA and the Border Patrol and INS at the time, and ICE. You added bureaucracy on top of that. So I think it's questionable whether that, really has served its usefulness. So,
right.
I mean, I could bring, the director of ICE in there and ask him the same questions I'm asking Secretary Mayorkas.
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing what you pledged to do? I don't care what the president says. President's mouth isn't the law. I mean, I don't know. If cops weren't arresting drunk drivers, would we just sit around? Oh well,
right.
I don't get the whole selectively enforcing the law. That won't work. You can't have a justice system that depends on who committed the crime. Can't have that. And it's funny because liberals have been arguing that for a long, long time. That that the system is racist, the system blah, blah, blah. Yet they're the ones now advocating a two-tiered system.
Yes, they are.
Everything depends on who is being charged.
Yes.
If it's a white Republican who goes to church and voted for Trump, they're held to one standard. If it's a black person, it's to a different standard. If it's an illegal alien, it's a different standard. If it's a Democrat, it's a different standard.
Yes.
If it's the president's son, it's a different standard. So, either you believe in that or you don't. I mean, and look, our system of justice isn't perfect. We have stupid laws in this country. Too many, way too many. So there is a lot of change I do support.
Yeah.
But it's not going in this direction.
No. We do need to have our immigration system reformed and revamped for these days and times.
Well, we do, Jay, but that won't work until we stop what's happening at the border.
Absolutely. If it's not secure, what good does it do?
Yeah, and if you go back in time, you go back to under President Reagan when this started getting out of control, and President Reagan, I think, maybe against his better judgment, was like, okay. Well, and it was the Democratic Congress that really broke a promise to him that we're going to give amnesty to people who are here, but we're going to secure the border now. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
They got the amnesty and no secure border.
Right.
So, you have to secure that border before you can even discuss all the many problems. And there are legit problems there.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Still shame on you.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I know.
Anyway, before we get into that, Jay.
Yeah.
By the way, who is it? Who sings that song? I'll get it. It's White Lightning. Was it White Lightning?
No,
it was who originally sang that? Was it George Jones or was somebody before him?
White Lightning?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Wasn't my era of country music. That's an era I don't know a lot about. Some.
I know some, but not as much as, say, like the 80s and 90s. I guess I don't. I always respect George Jones, but I mean, I that's before my time, too. That was Emerson, Palmer, and Ocean.
And Ocean.
Yeah, or Stream.
Lake?
Lake.
Yes,
Emerson,
one of them. Lake, and Palmer.
Isn't that them? That's not them?
The song is Borderland by John Mark McMillan. He's been on the podcast songs or music from the playlist, music from the podcast playlist on Spotify before. So yet another entry.
That was my next guess.
Absolutely. No doubt. I have no doubt.
Hey, listen.
Yes.
Listen, I got a theory. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's been about 5 days or so, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't say this on a podcast, but it's been a little while since.
Why let that stop you?
Since the well, I mean, counting days, but the Robert Him report, Robert Herr report on President Biden's document stealing or whatever it was.
Right.
We got so many classified documents in this country. Quite frankly, I think they all should be stolen. So because I have a right to see what my government's doing. I'm sorry, but I do. And I think these cases are bogus. I think the case is bogus against President Biden. I think it's 10 times as bogus against President Trump. The President of the United States is in charge of these documents. Biden wasn't at the time, so it's a loser.
Yeah.
It's actually worse, in my opinion, in Biden's case. But
I
would throw them both out because, to me, 90% of this crap should be declassified anyway. So
I agree with that, but I mean, the president can classify or declassify things as a part of his job. A lone senator, really cannot.
Or a vice president clearly can't either.
No, and so. I think that you have to at least let the president, make those decisions. There are some things that I think do need to stay classified because you don't want your enemies to know about them.
Sure.
But
10%.
I think over and above all the stuff regarding Kennedy, MLK, all the stuff now that's starting to come out that the CIA is the one who started the Russiagate hoax, all of that stuff needs to come out. We're entitled to that information.
We're entitled to see who killed our president 61 years ago. I'm sorry, but we are.
We are.
Don't give me this methods and stuff BS. This isn't a James Bond movie, okay?
No.
We don't go after people the way we did in 1963. Okay, we go out with technology. It's totally different. I don't want to hear that. That's such garbage. And it is a disease in Washington. It's a disease among our mainstream media who are supposed to search for the truth, and they do anything but.
Well, unfortunately.
But the burden's on the government, to me, to show that,
I mean, they can sit and cry conspiracy theorist all day long, but it seems to me that a lot of the stuff where things are being hid is because our government seems to be complicit, or at least is rumored to be complicit in part or all of the scandal.
Well, again, why does a conspiracy theory happen? Because of secrecy, lies, baloney, lack of media interest, the fact that these things keep happening over and over, the fact that we can never get to the truth. I mean, if there's one consistent thing, and I've said this before, my entire life, to varying degrees, my government has largely done nothing but lie to me.
Yes.
You hear a politician talk, you got to scratch your head and think about how much of that's really the truth.
Absolutely.
That's what you have to sift through. And because we have a dishonest media, that makes it harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get back to Biden for a second because I got a theory here, a little false flag theory.
Okay.
False flag being, I mean, you guys know the definition of, everybody knows what I'm talking about here, about how something underhanded is coming out and no one's seeing what's in front of their faces.
Yeah.
So this report comes out basically saying, and I'm going to paraphrase, I don't have it in front of me. Don't care about it. Don't need to read it verbatim. I'm sure by now a lot of you have heard about this or seen this or saw Biden's presser. Maybe you watch the Sunday shows. I don't know. If you do, I feel sorry for you. But the president, basically, the special counsel looking into this, basically said, yeah, Biden took these documents willfully and knowingly.
Yes.
But we can't go after him because he's basically incompetent to stand trial.
Right.
Now, Jay, I want to stop right there. Think about all of the people that we put on trial in this country. We put people on trial who are addicted to drugs, have schizophrenia or something like that, have been abused.
Yeah.
And we declare them, we put 15-year-olds and try them as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a very high standard.
No.
It is very hard to claim an insanity defense.
And think of how many people have tried and not been allowed to.
Exactly. I mean, an insanity defense is very, very difficult.
Right.
It's a huge burden. I mean, basically, you flip the burden. The burden's on the prosecution to prove your guilt.
Right.
But your insanity defense is basically, I'm guilty, but I have to prove why I'm not.
And it's the defense lawyer who always is fighting for that insanity plea, not the one who is prosecuting.
Right.
Which is,
right.
Again,
up to the prosecutor,
totally
everybody would be saying.
Yes. But not here.
Okay, so stop saying. Now, first off, if this is true about Joe Biden, if this is really the truth, and the president, the latest news now is that he's refusing to take a cognitive test, which to me, that shouldn't be his option. I'm sorry, but it shouldn't be. However, let's just take this at their word here, that he is not competent to say. He's an elderly old guy who doesn't know what day it is and, changes his underwear 4 times a day, whatever. He isn't qualified to be president for another 5 minutes, if that's the truth.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all knowing, though, that everybody has tiptoed around Biden's age and competence. This is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you and I haven't noticed or discussed.
Right.
Nothing that hasn't not been noticed by the Tucker Carlsons and the Brit Humes and the Glenn Becks and the Lou Dobbses and the people who dare to bring it up. Nobody had a problem bringing up Ronald Reagan's age when he ran, which, by the way, was 73, not 81.
Right.
Bob Dole was 73. John McCain was 71 or so. I mean, this is another level than that. Okay.
I mean, I remember living through President Reagan and all the jokes about him taking naps in the middle of the day or, just being forgetful.
How about when
Nancy?
How about in the 90s when it came out that he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease? The first thing the media did was speculate on when that started.
Right.
It started back when he met with Gorbachev out in Iceland.
Oh, my word.
It's like, what? I mean, I listened to Reagan after he left office. He sounded more with it than Biden does now. I mean,
that's for sure.
He could have had lapses for all we know. I don't know the answer, but this is why I think this is a false flag. This is Merrick Garland's Justice Department.
Yeah.
This report couldn't have gone. Garland could have squashed this report.
Yep.
The fact that this went through tells me that this is the first step in removing Biden from the ticket. Now, I still think removing him is not that simple. I disagree with some who think, do that convention. Convention's at the end of August. I mean, we start voting in September. I don't know that. I'm not quite sure the mechanics of that. It is not too late. I mean, people point to like LBJ when he stepped aside. That was March 31st. It's not too late.
Right.
But it's the first time that it has internally been discussed, and everybody now is forced to talk about it.
Yes.
It's not something. I mean, the press corps went after him. Press corps hasn't done that yet to this guy.
Right.
I tried to watch MSNBC. It was hilarious. What's happened to Joe Scarborough? What is his problem? He is a jerk.
He's
just
jerk.
a jerk. He's a piece of garbage. He's got this. The Trump derangement syndrome has gotten to him, and he talked about. Here's what I love. He talked about. Oh, I've had dinner at the White House with the. Well, then how the hell are you a journalist then, dude?
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell the truth? You're not a journalist at all. You're a barker for his administration.
Yeah.
But I saw Rachel Maddow had this round table where they all tried to pretend they didn't know when their parents died or something. And I mean, it was to see it was pathetic.
Yeah.
And this is something that can't be spun. This is something that this is not going away. In fact, every time Biden does anything, all they're going to talk about is whether he could stand up straight, or forgot the name of something, or fell down, or hit his head, or scratched his ass, or whatever. That's all they're going to focus on. Nobody's going to care what he says anymore.
Right.
So this is unavoidable. This is the issue right now. I mean, along with the border and all the other stuff that he's quite frankly quite far behind on.
Yeah.
This is it. This is piling on. This is the ground from within starting to pull him back.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple scenarios that could happen, but I would argue that he's got to step aside soon. Not in August.
Well,
that won't work.
What did Kamala say the other day? I'm ready to leave.
No, Kamala on one day said Biden is so great, he's so sharp, he's so wonderful. Which, if that's the case, why don't we get to see that then?
Right.
It's an orchestrated effort. They all got the talking points memo. Jen Psaki said the same thing, and then 3 days later she says, "Well, I'm here just in case."
Yeah.
Well,
I'm ready.
That's not choreographed. What happened to he's the sharpest guy you know?
Right.
So, I mean, I think that this is the beginning of this, but like I've said before, I would argue it has to happen soon. We can't go 6 months with constant speculation and constant not knowing. And what's going to happen is Trump will be ahead by 50 by then, and it may be insurmountable. Something has to happen now or in the next 60 days. You and I maybe don't see eye to eye on that. The superdelegates, their power's been reduced. Now that can change at a convention. You can suspend the rules. But I don't see how they can just pluck somebody in. Their convention is August 22nd.
Yeah.
I mean, can you just pluck somebody in then and just...
I think they can do whatever they want. I mean, here's the thing. If he steps aside,
but is it dependent on Biden stepping aside or them intervening and not renominating him? He's won all these delegates.
Right.
There he is.
He can run if he wants to. I mean, if he's not going to step aside, and it looks like he will not, and Jill doesn't want him to either,
of course not.
They are going to have to use the 25th Amendment, which, if he's as bad as this report says, they should. But here's the problem then. That puts Kamala Harris in as president, and she has worse numbers than he does.
Yeah.
And she's not someone that you can get rid of because of old age, or you can't use some other excuse. How are you going to take out a black woman out of a Democratic race in favor of anybody else if she becomes president? You're kind of stuck with her at that point.
Well, here's the thing. Does it depend on if Biden steps aside or resigns? Or, because to me, I don't think they're under an obligation to nominate Harris.
No, they may not be under an obligation, but it's up to her to run if she wants to. She has that right as the president.
Of course she can. Well, you saying if Biden's removed?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what has to happen for the 25th Amendment to be triggered? I mean,
It's the vice president, and is it a majority of the cabinet that have to invoke it?
so they have the power to just invoke.
Absolutely, they do.
Wow, that's pretty serious. That's crazy. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you're gonna come up with a coup, I mean, there's definitely a way to do that. Ideally, when you are a president and you hire a cabinet of people to surround yourself with, there are people that wouldn't do that to you. But when you get into a place of senility, right? You have Alzheimer's as bad as the president is appearing to have it.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's kind of your duty. I mean, a lot of times when it's invoked temporarily, like with Reagan when he was shot.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. And then we have the acting president. Dick Cheney was acting president for 8 hours because President Bush was put under twice for colonoscopies.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
It's actually, while Bush was getting his butt looked at, Cheney was the president for 4 hours twice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose Reagan being shot's probably the only time since that amendment was passed, which I think was in the 50s, that a president has been out for any length of time. Trying to think of another scenario that it could be. Obviously, you can't count President Kennedy. So, who else would that have happened to? Let's see. Eisenhower, Nixon, Ford. Yeah, I don't know who. But I mean, but also, so if you're going to talk about a coup from within, so if they want to remove him, see again, Jay, let me ask you a question on that, because their public statements are something completely different.
Right.
I mean, the Democrats have all come out, he's the sharpest fork in the drawer. He's
right.
Blah, 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 blah. Well, how do they now invoke the 25th Amendment? I mean,
Well, it's gotten to a point, though. It's like now that this report is out there saying, well, he's guilty, but we're not going to prosecute him because he's just a kind, elderly old man who forgets things. So if he's not able to stand trial, he either has to stand trial or he's not able to stand trial. And if he's not able to stand trial, how do you keep him in as a president? You can't make that charge. On the other hand, then you have to put pressure on the Justice Department to press charges if he's able to stand trial. I mean, they kind of have him caught between a rock and a hard place right now.
That's what I'm saying. It's devastating. It's devastating no matter how you look at it.
Here's what Section 4 of the 25th Amendment says. Whenever the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and the duties of the office as acting President.
So the Senate pro temp and the Speaker are involved in this? Because the Senate pro temp is technically the fourth in line, right? It's
yes.
The Speaker, then the Senate, then it goes to Secretary of State or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Vice President, House Speaker,
yeah. So they're involved only as much as the Vice President and the majority of the principal officers of the executive departments, that the secretaries, right, of the cabinet, provide to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House their written declaration that President is unable to discharge his duties. So that's who receives the report from.
Now, what's that based on, though? What is that based on? I mean, they're not doctors.
It's based on a vote of the vice president and the principal officers. It says here, all they have to do is give the written declaration to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. The written declaration that the president is unable to discharge their powers, and the vice president shall immediately assume the powers.
So the Senate pro temp and the House Speaker have no say in whether this is declared or not.
Doesn't sound that way, no. Let me read a little further. Thereafter, when the president transmits to the president pro temp of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of the office, unless the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit within 4 days to the president pro temp of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Therefore, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If the Congress, within 21 days of receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall continue to discharge the same as acting president. Otherwise, the president shall resume the powers and duties of his office.
So
the president can come back and say, I am able to discharge the duties, and then the vice president and the cabinet have to vote again, providing another letter saying no, they can't, and then Congress has to vote on it with 2/3.
Okay, I'm going to say there's no chance that happens. Zero.
Well, I don't know.
I can't see that happening. I mean, I just don't. That's just
Unless
because the Republicans could all vote no. No, Biden's fine. Leave him there.
they could. I don't know if they will, because they believe they can beat Kamala Harris too.
True, and Republicans are kind of on the record also saying this guy's incompetent and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
How do they walk that back?
Right. And I don't think they're afraid of facing Kamala Harris in a general election.
Zero. I think that's not about that whatsoever. But that's the quandary Democrats are in, though.
Right.
I don't think the Democrats want Harris either. So and she's going to have to run with Biden's record. I mean, it's around her neck too. So I don't.
True.
I mean, I'm sure she'd be behind 25 points on immigration, behind 25 points on inflation, behind 25 points on energy independence.
But I think they need a fall guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think they can come back and say, well, the job of the vice president is to support the president and his policies. So, Kamala's going to have a different outlook on this stuff. She won't, obviously, and they won't do anything different. I think that those people that are running that, unless they can put a Michelle Obama in place, who they also know, will run these same policies, they will take. I mean, they'd leave Biden in if they think he's going to win, because they have free reign to do whatever they want.
Right.
So it's not about that. It's about
if Biden was at 60%, it wouldn't matter what you wrote in the report.
He could be drooling over his noontime pablum. It's just,
it's all about the fact that they're going to lose.
Right. I mean, that's what it is.
That's what they're fearing. But one election's not worth blowing up the system to me. I mean, that's just me. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either. However, you got to look at how close they are to implementing some of their things that are going to change the face of America and American government forever.
Okay, fine. Then they implement them in 6 years instead of 3. I mean, again, these people think long term. I mean,
generally that's been true, but I don't think we're dealing with progressives anymore. I think we're dealing with radical revolutionaries, and I think they see their opportunity and they're going to go for it. Also, they know if President Trump is elected again, that he's going to blow all of it up, and he is going to take out their ability to rebuild it.
For 4 years. I mean, that's true. But I also think, to me, it's like, you have one bad election cycle, your mind's always on the next one. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's so many institutions that have had such free reign for so long that even President Trump can't shoot at 300 targets at once. He's going to have priorities.
Yeah.
He's going to have to go, I don't want to say slow, but he's going to have to
It's possible. Yeah.
he's gonna meet resistance from both parties in a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I think again, they can,
But I think there's some stuff he can do right away that'll have huge effects. He can get rid of the Department of Education. He can get rid of the FBI. He can get rid of,
Well, and if he doesn't get rid of them, he can issue executive orders to change their job.
Yeah, I think
premise.
we've seen that doesn't really work, though, either, because the last term he had, they just did whatever they wanted to.
Yeah, well, and he did try, though. I mean, he replaced the heads of those
Yeah.
departments, and he sent a fair amount of recommendations to Congress. I think Congress wouldn't work with him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Republicans wouldn't work with him. I've accused a lot of Republicans of being mouthpieces for the CIA and the FBI, and
Right.
I think that's changing. I think that's changing in the Republican Party, outside of
Yes.
Washington and New York. But I don't know that that's, I don't know that that's hitting. I don't know how much that's hitting. I don't think they much care what happens with the rest of the country, but.
Right.
The rest of the country's getting smarter about this stuff, and so nobody trusts anybody. So
Yeah.
it's possible. I mean, it is, and I don't know what's the scenario if the first step to like getting rid of the Department of Education, or the first step is you don't appoint a secretary.
Right.
It's like the Met Council. The first thing you don't do, you don't appoint a Met Council.
Yep.
But then it falls on the House to not fund it. So
That's true.
that's what I'm saying, that there's he can do some things by himself, but some things he's going to have. I think Trump needs a plan for that. And I think he should not say anything until he wins
Yeah.
and then do it, because you have to keep Biden the issue right now.
Right. And that gives them a chance to, counterplan, right? And
Yeah,
and
you
to-
got to anticipate what's going to happen. And
Yeah. And even when he was able to put in good heads, you look at the Department of Education, and Betsy DeVos, I think, was very good on education, but I think still that department operated outside of the bounds of what we would like to see, and still lots of money with strings, not taking care of the woke stuff, not doing something, about graduation standards or whatever.
now, how much of that though is, well, do we leave it to the states? Do we, because I mean,
It should all be left to
I
the
don't want the
states.
federal government coming down and barking out orders,
Right.
left or right.
But that's why that's kind of a popular position now, is to get rid of the Department of Education, and I think they should.
I think it would be cheered. I think it'd be cheered if it happened.
The
only people that would miss it are bureaucrats in Washington.
bureaucrats in Washington, your teachers' unions.
Even they wouldn't admit. Well, if I'm a teachers union, the last thing I want is money coming with strings attached. The last thing I want is standards written by somebody living 2,000 miles
agree.
away. It's the last thing I'd want to see is the federal government doing anything.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't really know the level of the money and the power that's exchanged back and forth between those two groups.
There is. I wonder if the average run-of-the-mill teacher even knows. I mean, it's
Oh, absolutely not.
yeah. It's like saying the bank teller knows as much as the bank manager. I don't think there's a lot of knowledge there, but I don't know. Anyhow, I want to get back. Let me get back to Biden for a second. Let's play this out. Is Biden on the ballot in November, Jay?
I don't think so. I mean, look at where he's at. I guess I see maybe a couple of ways that he's on the ballot. A, if his polls come up and they think he can win, I think they'll leave him on. But that's considering that his polls have to come up, especially in the battleground states, quite a bit.
Okay, but like I've said before, what's going to cause his polls to go up? I mean, over the next 6 months, because look, by the time August, September roll around, his polls are stuck. They're not moving. So what has to happen between now and the summer?
Well, you can see they're already trying. They put out these fake job numbers that are twisted around. They try to say, the GDP. Oh, look at the stock market. The people are still feeling economic pain. It's not going to change people's thoughts on the economy.
They're not fooled by that anymore. What's going to happen in May when there's $4 gas again?
Yeah, I mean, we're already headed in that direction.
It's going to be there. We've depleted our strategic reserves.
Yeah.
We're more dependent on foreign countries. They're slowing their production on purpose to screw us.
Right.
So what's going? Interest rates aren't coming down. Just into Jerome Powell the other day. That guy. You want to talk about a guy who's senile? That guy contradicted himself 20 times.
Yeah.
But the Fed's always late. They're always late. They always go too slow and then too fast. That's why Congress needs to retake control over monetary policy.
Yeah.
But so it's just, I mean, it's silly. But I think to myself, what's going to change over the next 6-7 months?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, if President Trump is actually convicted of something and sent to jail, he could lose enough support that it would change things.
The way it's looking, I don't think anything's even going to trial this year.
It may not, the way things are going with the whole Fannie Willis or whatever her name is down in Georgia. Sounds like that's going to probably get delayed because of her own problems.
And quite frankly, the document Mar-a-Lago case, to me, the Biden report is a blow to that, because to an average person, in my opinion, how do you say, okay, one guy took documents, one guy didn't, one guy's going to get charged, the other guy's not? That just isn't going to fly.
Right.
And I actually honestly think that if they would drop those cases, if the Justice Department would drop those cases, that would help Biden tremendously.
Probably.
I really think it would.
Yeah.
It's backfired. It's backfired a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't know. I think to myself, what's going to change? And I don't know what's gonna happen. It's just so I mean, and look, it looks, what's going to change on the border? It looks like nothing.
Nothing. And
people have identified that as the number 1 or 2 issue.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, does Mayorkas get taken out or convinced to resign in order to bring in somebody who's going to be tougher on the border? I don't see that, because their long-range plan is different.
Well, and it just is Mayorkas making policy, or is the Biden administration making policy?
Yeah, well, administration. I mean, that's the key, not Biden.
Well, that's true. Okay, so I mean, but what I guess. So you're going to throw money that he isn't on the ballot. I mean, if I gave you $100 and said, "Look, you put your bet. This is not the kiss machine you like in Vegas. throw a number down. Fire something out there of what you think."
Yeah. I don't think he is. And whether they take him out with the 25th Amendment and make Kamala Harris the president and she's on the ballot, or they try something in the convention to bring in a Michelle Obama or I don't know. I don't even think Gavin Newsom could save things at this point with as bad as California is.
He don't want it. He doesn't want it.
I think he wants it.
Not now.
I think in 4 years he's going to want it.
Right. The best thing Gavin Newsom can do is not run for another term, go hide for a year, and then reinvent himself.
Yeah.
That's his best bet.
Right.
So, I think him running now is not what he wants, and I don't even think he would do it if pushed to do it.
Right.
I just don't think so. I think the political climate is just too yucky. But I'll tell you what, if I'm at the RNC right now,
Yes.
I am getting every commercial I can get with this report. Yeah, in that you've got to reiterate this every waking second.
Yep. And I would overlay it with every clip I can think of him stumbling around and misquoting things and
Forgetting
just
the name of somebody.
Yeah.
And like I say, what do you make of him not doing the Super Bowl interview and not doing? I mean, supposedly they were going to give him a softballer at CBS.
Yeah.
If he can't do that, now is that them just saying, okay, time out? We got to do something different. We got to retool. Now he's in these little videos that are these
TikTok videos. Yeah,
they're not going to fool anybody either. But I think he's got to have to campaign this time. There's going to be no sitting in the basement.
I don't know that they'll do that. I don't know that they'll do that.
You think that sitting in the basement will work?
I think they'll do like prefabricated videos, where they pre-record them and they can edit them. I think,
you could do podcasts because you could edit them.
I bet you if anything he does for a live appearance, he's not going to make long speeches. It's going to be other people speaking. He'll come up, he'll wave at everybody, and he'll say 3 minutes worth of stuff, and off he goes.
Okay, but that just reinforces everything that's happened.
Yeah, it does. But you can't make moonshine out of you know what I mean?
Chicken salad out of. I just personally, I can't believe that an edited softball interview at CBS would scare anybody. All they're going to ask him is who's going to win the Super Bowl, and you talked to Zelensky lately, and blame MAGA Republicans for this. It's all that interview would have been.
Yeah,
you got 100 million people as an audience, and I don't know how you turn that down. And I mean, Trump sat there with Leslie Stahl and got interrogated, and he seemed to enjoy it. But I mean,
he even offered to stand in. I loved that. I'll do it.
I love the comment where Trump said that he wants to start debating.
Yeah.
And Biden was asked about it. You know what he should have said? You're damn right we're going to debate.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes, and then he kind of walked one way and walked another way and then walked the other way. And it was like, what is that? Like, you damn name the time and place. That's what he should have said.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a rush job to do a presser, which never happens in this administration. This administration doesn't do anything without mulling it over for a week.
Yeah.
And
it was a disaster.
Making sure Biden gets 12 hours of sleep the night before. I mean, I don't know. It was... I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a White House like this. Say what you want about President Clinton or President Obama or President Bush or President Trump. I've never had the feeling that I don't know who's in charge of this country right now. And I have no idea who it is.
But I will say this. I think it is kind of exposed that outside of President Trump's presidency, that presidents maybe aren't. I think they're in charge, but I think that a lot of times it's their cabinets, their advisors that are really the ones that are developing the scenarios that the presidents pick from, I don't necessarily think that they're the ones that are like, what we ought to do. I don't know.
That's too bad. I think it, like we talk about in local government, it's not, you shouldn't be dictating to staff.
Right.
Staff shouldn't be dictating to you. I do agree that there are lawyers, lobbyists, and all that have free reign on everything. That brings us right to aid to these foreign countries and this alleged border bill.
Yeah.
That's now been dropped. We're going to keep handing out Halloween candy all year round. You know what's funny? Here's what's funny. Why do I never get a thank you? How come I never get a thank you?
Yeah.
A piece of garbage, Zelensky. Why doesn't he come kiss our ass? That's what he should be doing. I mean, that's what he should be doing. He should be saying, geez, we'd be, and I actually don't really agree with this. I don't agree that without a blank check to Ukraine, they'd be helpless. I'm not sure I believe that. But the idea that we are going to pass, if we already passed in the Senate, we were supposed to couple this with a border bill, quote unquote,
Right.
which was an awful thing, horrible thing. Basically put Mayorkas, the guy we're trying to impeach, in charge, giving him more authority, allowed 5,000 illegal immigrants to come in a day under this. So the idea was a border bill was just a total joke. But the foreign aid, the endless neocon project for the American century stuff, it just never stops, Jay. What is this blank check to the rest of the world?
I don't get it. I mean, framing this as a border bill is just atrocious. I mean, you had over $158 billion, and with that, you had a tiny sliver that was going to the border, and then you had half of the money, and that is not an underestimation, that half of the money going to Ukraine. And then you had another, and I might have been wrong on the amount. I don't think it was 150 billion. It was 120 some billion. And then you had like 60 billion going to Ukraine.
Well, the final bill that was passed without the border stuff was 95 billion.
Yes.
You're right on the 60 figure.
Yes.
But it's Gaza, it's Taiwan.
Oh, yeah.
Money.
That's other stuff that was in there. Yeah.
It's money.
There's some going to Israel, but they were also giving money to Gaza.
Yeah, it's humanitarian aid.
Right, and like that's not going to go to Hamas?
2/3 of that's going to get stolen. I was about to say by Hamas. I like to call them Hamas. You remember
Hamas and cheese?
Remember when George Bush Sr. used to call Saddam Saddam? I always thought he did that on purpose to like be a maybe. Yeah. So I'm calling them Hamas.
Hamas and cheese.
Hamas.
Yes.
Sitting outside in my Hamas. So that's where we're coming. Yeah, most of that money's gonna get stolen, or somebody's gonna go there and make it rain.
Yeah.
So money for Taiwan? I don't know what that has to do with anything. In Ukraine, we're paying for everything in their government. Everybody's
their Social Security,
pension. We're paying for their office pencils and computers.
We're paying the salary of their government.
It's sick.
It is sick.
I mean, their own defense, shouldn't they pay anything?
No. I mean,
and by the way, why doesn't this money come with, everybody's calling for a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza. Why aren't we calling for a ceasefire in Ukraine?
Exactly, because it's okay to say that Vladimir Putin is a villain, and
which he is.
He is, but I'm going to say Ukraine is super corrupt too. There's not a good guy in the fight.
There's not a democracy over there.
And how many times has Zelensky called for the censoring of or the banishing of?
He's doing it. He's doing
an
it.
Autocrat too.
He's doing it with the full support of Washington, our media, and the world.
Yes.
Because he can do it because Putin's the greater evil. That's how it's viewed in the simplistic way that the Council on Foreign Relations and those people like that view things.
Both sides are bad.
We can control Zelensky. We can't control Putin.
Right.
That's what it comes down to, is who we got our thumb on and who we don't. If we could control Putin, he'd be the good guy and Zelensky would be the bad guy.
Right.
It's all just dollar diplomacy. So, I mean, the point being that how long do you give a country a blank check for? And now, and I'm going to add this too. We're adding inflation.
Yep.
We're giving them $60 billion. We don't have it.
Right.
So get that printing press going. Huh? Powell, get that printing press going. Let's go. Let's print some more money. And, of course, who does it go to? It goes to the politicians so they can spend it. It's not going to us.
Right. But yeah, this original quote unquote border bill was going to allow up to 5,000 migrants to come through every week?
Day.
Every day.
It
every
had
day.
to go over 5,000 on an average for a week.
And then they had to go to the ports of entry where they'd be processed, but still allowed in. And it was just a mess.
It was
so bad, the bill. And then the Senate takes it away. Okay, so we lost this, and they refigure it into an even worse bill because they strip out all of the border stuff.
Where's the compromise here with
right? And
they stripped out the compromise.
And they went a step further in their funding of Ukraine, that whoever the next president was would not be able to end the funding to Ukraine or face immediate impeachment trial.
So wait a minute.
What?
So wait a minute. They have to fund this forever?
It was like 3 more years or something like that.
Isn't it up to Congress though to do that?
Yeah.
Congress make a bill? You're telling me the next president can't veto it?
Or he couldn't redirect the funds or whatever it was. I don't know. And that any munitions that we were going to make in the United States for our own, to replenish our own stockpiles that we've depleted, would have to get sent over to Ukraine. Just useless. These people are useless. Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell,
we know
Lisa Murkowski,
yeah, Susan
Collins.
We know the list of spasticated spankulators.
Useless.
Well, now I'm intrigued by. There's no chance the House is passing this.
No.
Because number one, you're going to have the Squad and others who are not going to fund Israel.
Yeah.
And the Squad is not 5 people. It's more like, I would say, the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, I would say is probably more like 15 to 20% of the Dems in the House. So they're not going to get on board with this. No. And I can't see this aid with nothing attached to it getting passed. I can't even see it coming to a floor vote. No. So
Mike Johnson won't let it.
No, and I don't think it would pass. I think there's enough pro-Hamas Dems and enough Republicans that it won't pass no matter what.
Right.
But I still think something will get through. And my question is, what does the House do? Does the House... See, I think the House needs to pass a stringent border bill, and then they can go and I do think we should aid Israel to a point. I don't think Israel needs it.
Right.
But I think we should aid them a little bit, especially their civilian people who have been displaced and all that. I don't think we should be going toward Gaza. We're not doing it. I don't know why we should be.
Right.
But Taiwan is a country I am willing to aid to a point. I am not willing to cut them a blank check.
Yeah.
But I do fear aggression towards them. I do think that they are a strategic ally. Ukraine, I don't know what I'd do. I think I would fund something, but I would get the negotiations started. What's wrong with sitting down and saying, let's end this bloodshed?
We won't cut a blank check to a school district, but yet we are willing to cut blank checks to a country that is corrupt. Why is there no accounting of the money that they're spending?
They won't cut a blank check of $200. Is it that they won't do that with a foreign country?
Yeah, they can't put any strings on it whatsoever. If you don't spend this money on XYZ, we're not giving you any more.
I'd like an accounting where these weapons are ending up. I mean, people talk about nuclear warheads from Russia going to Iran. First off, they're already there.
Yeah.
I just think Iran doesn't have the delivery capability.
Right.
But I think they already have nukes. But how about what we're sending to Ukraine? What if the Russians capture it all?
Well, that's a risk that we're running, isn't it?
What if they're used in a school shooting? That was always my argument to Democrats.
Yeah.
What if they're used in a school shooting? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
well, it's. I don't know if you heard this. Lee Fink, your favorite.
Another one of your girlfriends.
No, he is not. Let me just say that. No, he is not. Is in on a bill that would restrict and I guess prohibit the sale, transfer, hand-me-down, whatever, of semi-automatic weapons in the state. Now, that
which every weapon is a semi-automatic.
Right, every weapon is a
Your average
semi-automatic,
handgun.
except a bolt action, or
or a Revolutionary War musket.
Right, right.
Come on,
which you can find, but that's
Right.
not the
But your average-
standard fare.
your 9mm handgun is a semi-automatic. You're not
Yeah.
loading it. You shoot, you pull every time,
Yeah.
but you're not emptying a cartridge and then turning in a new one.
Right. A pump action shotgun, I guess, technically is not semi-automatic. But, I mean, this is the thing. They come after what we do as private citizens and restrict our abilities, but they just allow whatever when it's something they agree with, like Ukraine. It's like, we'll just give them a bunch of F-16s. What? But here it's like, I want to hand my son down a BB gun, and all of a sudden I'm being escorted out with my hand behind my back.
Yeah. No, you just create a black market where somebody will get it some other way because the demand is there.
Yeah.
It's supply and demand. I mean, that's ultimately the thing that you can't legislate out.
Right.
We've tried to do it with drugs. We've tried to do it with guns. Tried to do it with alcohol prohibition. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the demand end, not the supply end. But I go back and I still think Ukraine will get their money. That's my prediction, is that they get most of it.
I don't know.
I don't think
We'll
they get
see.
$60 billion, but the votes are there in the House for Ukraine. If Ukraine was by itself,
Yeah.
that would fly.
I don't know. It's got to get past committee, and Speaker Johnson is not too keen on it.
He's not wild about it, but I don't know that he can hold a bill down that has. I mean, I'm going to guess that would get 300 votes.
Yeah.
That's just you'd have your House guys, the House of Representative Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, John Kennedy types,
Right.
and then you have the Romney, Collins type. You got that in the House too.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, I think the Freedom Caucus or whatever, I think has more than it does in the Senate. And I think the Democrats are all on board, except, like I said, except for the squad members. But if you pull the Israel stuff out of there, my guess is that they will support that. So,
Well, that's possible.
I mean, the House is just going to have to draft their own bill. And that's what's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
The Senate one's not going to pass as it is. So
No, that has no chance of passing.
But I said that 6 months ago, and it went through pretty cleanly without, some Republicans tried to put amendments on there, but it's
Right.
nothing.
And that's the thing. A lot of amendments are getting shut down too. To
Well, they're not
try
even
and
getting.
stop some of these
They're not even
bills.
getting debated. They're
Right.
just being committee votes to shut it down, and you can stack a committee if you want to, and the chair has a lot of authority over that. They threaten re-election money over. Look what they did to Marjorie Taylor Greene, where they tried to prop up last time a primary opponent against her and wouldn't give her money for she won anyway. But I mean,
Right.
took a lot, I'm sure, to do that, and they go after the people who aren't in line with this stuff. So maybe Speaker Johnson will change that. I mean, the Republicans were in the minority then. Maybe that'll change now, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith that this won't go through in some way, shape, or form. And I'm going to predict that no border bill gets through at all. Nothing.
I agree with that.
I can't see the House agreeing to anything that does not especially in an election year. And you can't undermine President Trump. That's the other thing you can't do.
Right.
Can't take your nominee and his top issue or one of them and cut his legs out. I mean, you can't do that.
Although Republicans could screw up a one-car parade.
True,
So.
but I mean, do you want to win or don't you? I mean, look, I'd like to solve a problem too, but like I said before, until the border is secure, there are other problems of our immigration system that need reform.
Yes.
No question about it. Whether that's asylums, whether that's a path to citizenship, whether that's learning
Expanded
English,
green card program. Yeah.
work programs, learning English. These things need to happen, but they can't happen at the same time you're letting every Tom, Dick, and Harry in here.
Right.
So
it doesn't mean anything then.
Yeah, so this whole bit of this comprehensive stuff is just an excuse to do nothing.
No, and I'm tired of the omnibus bills. I mean, we've got to stop it. We got to stop saying it's a border bill and then putting in 33,000 other things that nobody wants.
Yeah, transgender surgery was part of the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right.
I mean, come on, let's just get serious here. So I mean, I shouldn't laugh at it, but it's here's what also drives me nuts, Jay.
Yeah.
You look at the polls, and this is where I think President Trump is so much more politically in tune than people give him credit for. You look at top issues of this campaign, and I've seen, again, my opinion of polls has declined, and I try not to look at them so much, especially knee-jerk polls. Like if you're looking at polls right now about what people are saying about President Biden, my answer to you is to look in 2 or 3 weeks. That will be more accurate.
Right.
When people digest this, when they think about it, maybe rewatch some things, maybe listen to analysts or whatever, turn on their favorite podcast or whatever. That's when you're going to see the real opinion. A knee-jerk poll is a hard thing to sort of quantify. So when you look at things, you look at them consistently over time and so on and so forth. And the top issues in this campaign, and they're not changing, are immigration, the economy and inflation, however you want to conflate those two, energy, and Biden's brain.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 things that everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It is not abortion. It is not Ukraine.
Nope.
It is not, if anything, people want nothing to do with foreign countries.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, what is the United States Senate thinking when everybody's pretty much saying we don't care? Maybe they should care.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I care to a point. I don't quite buy the domino theory. I don't quite buy. I think Israel can defend themselves. There's some things I don't quite buy.
Right.
Okay. But why is this? We've spent like months on this issue. We spent years on it.
Yes.
The disconnect between Washington. I mean, I've never seen it so bad.
It is bad. That's for sure. But it's not just Washington. The disconnect between Washington and the people, the disconnect between St. Paul and the people on this whole border issue. I mean, we've seen what happens to these sanctuary states, to
Walk
New
through
York.
Minneapolis, Leah Finke, and tell me you think tripling that is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, they are discussing whether to make Minnesota a sanctuary state. You've seen the effects of it in California, in New York, in Denver,
In Chicago.
in Boston. And you're telling me that this is a good idea. You knowing what you already know about what is going to happen, and as soon as we become a sanctuary state, you tell me Greg Abbott isn't going to start sending migrants here, and that we're not going to get overrun, and that we're not going to have a place to put people, that they're not going to freeze to death out in a tent out in Powderhorn Park.
No, we're going to put them up in a hotel. That's what'll happen.
Yeah, well, since nobody will go downtown anymore, there's probably plenty of room.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they ain't making much profit.
But I mean, that's in this state. Get off thinking that this, after what they've already seen, they cannot deny what's happening in these other big cities. Why would they even try this?
Well, the only thing I can think of is to bring people in, get them on the voting rolls, get them on the welfare rolls, get them free stuff, and then they'll then legalize them somehow and get them to vote. That's the only thing that makes any sense.
Well, they're already getting driver's license. Do they need to have some official designation to vote? Somebody can vouch for them. Hey, look, they've got a driver's license. Hey, I know.
I don't know.
I know these people.
I don't know. Probably. I wouldn't surprise me. Driver's license is a step toward legitimizing somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's certainly possible. I think that's the plan. I mean, that's the Democrats have openly said that's their plan in Texas.
Yeah.
To turn around a red state. They can't win, so we're going to import people who will vote for us.
Right.
And it's not working, but, I mean, they tried that in Florida, and in Florida, the minorities are voting Republican. I mean,
yeah.
Florida has higher percentage of minorities than we do. But they're voting Republican.
Well, a whole heck of a lot of them are Cuban.
A good chunk of them are.
And they hate the system they came from, and they recognize it.
True. I mean, there's a chunk of them are, but more and more it is people coming from other places. They're going to Florida. It's just they don't want to pay an income tax. They're going to Florida because, they're leaving the high tax, high crime states and going to, we've seen this happen now for a couple decades. I mean, there was a time, go back to the 70s when New York was like 38 electoral votes and Florida was like 15.
Yeah.
Look what's happened to those two states over the last two generations. That's not all bad weather. There was bad weather in the 70s. Okay.
That's true. Global cooling.
Yeah. I mean, there was New York and they have the same forecasts that they do in New York and Florida, the same winter.
Right.
Okay. So it's not all nice weather. Okay. There's other reasons too, whether that's jobs, whether that's, they want a cheaper place to live. I don't know what the answer is.
Right.
But it's hard to deny, when you see Illinois has been a dying state for 50 years now too.
Right.
The whole Rust Belt, even though they've gone back and forth with how they voted, it's the dying part of the nation for whatever reason. So I don't know. It's all ugly as always, Jay. It's all ugly.
Oh boy.
You know what I would do? I'm going to give President Trump some advice.
Yeah.
You know what I'd do if I were him?
What?
And I love, because the whole NATO thing where he went on a tirade over the weekend. I actually agreed with every word he said.
Yeah.
Waiting for somebody to say it. But the media is looking for any excuse to change the subject.
Yes.
And Trump, you could tell he was ad-libbing because he reacts to the crowd.
Yes. He's very good at it.
Right. But the crowd, he gets a laugh, he gets a cheer. Oh, yeah? Try this zinger. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, you like that? Try this one. Try that one. And you could see he's not reading a speech.
Right.
And I think what he ought to do is wait till South Carolina, lay low, go out, declare victory, do what he did in Iowa. Thank people running against him. He's going to win by 40.
Yeah.
Let it go. Don't say anything bad about Haley. You don't have to.
Right.
And then just turn and attack Biden and just spend a half an hour just letting loose everything again. And it all has to come down to, you remember what it was like in 2017, 18, and 19.
Yeah.
And what it's like now, and there's nothing Biden can say about it.
Yeah.
So to me, and I think he's done a good job of running. I mean, he's running a way better he's running a better campaign than he was the year he won.
Yes.
So I mean, I think he's doing those things. And as much as I love when he jabs and ad libs and gets fired up, it's like I like it, but he didn't have to do it this time.
Right.
He has this wand. He's just got to stay on message and just, keep pounding away. It's how he got a lead in the first place.
Right.
So, I just don't want the media to be able to change the subject by trying to find one line in a half-hour speech he gives to talk about it for a week and a half. They're trying to do that, and he just can't give them that ammunition right now. He can give that speech in April. Just let Biden self-destruct right now. Let the Democrats argue with each other. Just let that happen. So
I agree. I think that he's kind of the consummate showman, and he can navigate those waters pretty good.
I think he can.
So
I just want you just can't. The only thing that can hurt him is a self-inflicted wound. So anyway,
yeah.
Jay, it's that time again.
Is it really?
It is. We've given some good stuff today. I mean, we just get gooder and gooder and gooder. Haven't reached the goodest yet.
Yeah, well.
All right. Words of wisdom. Styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, with all this negativity and all my complaining and pessimism,
Yes.
give us some more. Just give us some more. I don't want to hear your uplifting words. I want to hear you agree with me.
Yeah, is that it? Oh goodness. Yeah,
I'm horrible.
we're in trouble. That's all I know. We're in trouble. We're put here to stand in opposition to darkness. There's just too much evil. Too many people that worship themselves, that worship money, that are willing to harm the innocent. We have to be willing to stand up as resistance to those that want to stand for these terrible policies where we're sending billions of dollars over to people that expect more of it, and they're corrupt in the way, and there's no accounting for how they spend it, for wanting to still bring people across the border, even though people are complaining about the numbers that are coming over. And we have to buckle down, and we have to begin to put forward an effort to do the right thing, to say the right thing, and to stand for the right thing. There's lots of people that say the right thing, but it doesn't cross over into what they do. And so that is something that we've got to start doing, and we can't take for granted anymore the just kind of letting things go, and being okay with what people talk about, but not following through on their actions. Action is everything. Talk is cheap. That's what they say, right? And it comes down to what we do. Out of the Psalm 94, 10 and 11, he punishes the nations. Won't he also punish you? He knows everything. Doesn't he also know what you are doing? The Lord knows people's thoughts. He knows they are worthless. Our thoughts are worthless. It's what we do. And oftentimes our actions are an outgrowth of our belief system, of our heart. And if our heart is to enrich ourselves, if our heart is to trade favors with people so that we can get more out of it, if our heart is to allow evil to grow and not actually put an end to it, then that makes us no better than any of the rest of them that are actually doing the evil. Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. That's attributed to Bonhoeffer. Some question about whether he's the one that actually said that or not, but it's a true statement. Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. And we know there's plenty of evil going on. We've got a president and we've got a Minnesota government that wants to implement policies that make child trafficking easier, that make drug trafficking easier. And they know it. They know it. They enrich the cartels. We have to stand tall and we have to put our foot down and say, no, not on my watch. It's not happening. So what do? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's an election year, and it's time for us to make a decision right now that we're going to run and we're going to put our foot down in our school districts, in our county boards, in our city councils, as a district attorney or county attorney, as a sheriff, as representatives and senators and governors and U.S. representatives and senators and as a president, we have to decide to pick a different route, because the one that we're going on will only lead us to destruction. And we've got to put an end to it right now. It has to be done. We put our trust in ourselves, and it will end in failure. We have to stand and move forward, and we can't be self-consumed. Hard times call for sacrifice. And I know that there's enough of you out there that are willing to make the sacrifice taken care of. So give us an email. Show up on our website and look us up, because the strategy that we provide for candidates has helped many of them win, and we can do it again with you. You can email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. And like that, our website is commsolutionsmn.com. And you can come and see all of the updates that we've made and come talk to us. Let us know what the issues are in your area. Let's win this fight together. Why? Because the alternative is to let the woke crowd take control of our state, and it's going to be nothing but misery for decades to come. I don't want that. I don't think you want that. So, with that, we'll be back with another podcast very soon, but you got some things to do. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.